Hi friends, welcome to the next chapter in the logical reasoning basic course, and a lot of you have been asking me for this. So this is the games and tournaments chapter, and I'll be doing this over 5-6 lessons because this has got a deep, very deep depth in terms of the number of questions and types of questions that get framed. वैसे this chapter as a chapter is more about tabular analysis than anything else, as you will see, but still we because there's obviously a sport connect to everything you do in this chapter. We call it the games and tournaments chapter in reasoning. So it's a very cat specific reasoning kind of question, and essentially when you talk about games and tournaments, and this is lesson 1 in that, of course. So when you're talking about games and tournaments, we are talking about three principal kinds of areas. Although I call them, I mean, you can think about tennis tournaments, you can think about football or hockey tournaments, and you can also think about archery or shooting tournaments. And of course, you also have a fourth kind, which you can think of as cricket. Cricket also allows you to have a lot of analytical situations where you can think analytically about the situation. So there's also cricket tournaments that we'll cover. So we'll be covering this in 4 parts, and maybe 1 to 2 videos of each part I'll do. So and we'll just see how much length of time we have. So maybe I'll just put in a timer here so that or I'll just put a clock here so that I'm aware of the time I'm using inside this session. So ठीक है. So let's look at this session then. I mean this session में I'm basically dealing with knockout tournaments, which could be tennis tournaments basically, but they can also be table tennis or badminton tournaments where also knockout is held. Sometimes cricket tournaments are also held in knockout format. So all these tournaments which are held completely in knockout format is what we're looking at. Now the first logic, first of all, before we get into anything there, first of all you need to understand that in knockout tournaments there's something called a seeding logic. So what is the seeding logic in the knockout tournaments? Well, the seeding logic in the knockout tournaments involves the favorite team, the most strongest team, which is called the top seed, is seeded number 1, and the second favorite or the second most strongest team is called seed number 2. Then you've got seed number 3, 4, 5, 6, and so on. And typically, if you look at international tennis tournaments, like for example a Grand Slam, there are 128 players in the Grand Slam, but in a real life scenario you might have only 32 players who are seeded, and 33 onwards they are unseeded players. But in a games and tournaments question, specifically after the CAT 2005 question which came on a tennis tournament, what they have started doing is they have started, I mean the questions in CAT and the questions inside aptitude all have all the players seeded, and a very particular way in which the draw is created. The draw, let's say we talk about a 32 player tournament, or let's say we talk about a 64 player tournament. So in a 64 player tournament, what they do is they give the seedings of every player from 1 to 64. All the players are seeded, all the teams are seeded from 1 to 64, and the first round, and this is knockout, please remember. So in the knockout, the first round is first match of the first round is M1, which is 1 versus 64. The second match, M2 of the first round, is 1 versus 63. Sorry, 2 versus 63. So obviously you realize that in a situation like this, round 1 will consist of 32 matches. So first match is 164, second is 263, the third match is 362, and going that way, the last match, the 32nd match, will be 32 versus 33. The key in every match in this case is that the sum of the seed numbers will be 65. 1 plus 64 is 65, 2 plus 63 is 65. So if at random you want to find out who is seed number 17 playing, you can just look at the value here, which will add up with 17 to 65, and that you should get as 48. 17 plus 48 is 65, or 65 minus 17 is 48. So this will be round 1. Now round 1, every match has 2 possible outcomes. 1 wins or 64 wins. 32 wins or 33 wins. Right? And the players who win obviously go into the next round in this structure. So what happens when you go into the next round? There are many possibilities for every match, but what they do in the tournament is they go according to seedings. So according to seeding, what is going to happen is each of these matches is expected to be won by the higher seeded player. 1 is the highest seed. It's ulta. 64 is the lowest seed. 1 is the higher seed. It goes against the numerical numbers. The lower the number, the higher the seeding is. So 2 is expected to win this match, 3 is expected to win this match, 32 is expected to win this match. So the matches are expected to be 1 by 1 versus 1 to 32, not 32 to 64. So when you create a draw for round 2, you create the draw on the basis of who is expected to win. So the first match, match 1 of round 2, is expected to be 1 versus 32. So winner of match 1 and winner of match 32 will play the first match of the second round. Likewise, winner of match 2 and winner of match 2 and winner of match 31 are expected to play a match together. And match 2 is expected to be 1 by 2, match 31 is expected to be 1 by 31. So the next match is supposed to be 231. This is match 2 of round 2. And going forward, the last match of this round, the next match will be 330. What you should notice is now every match has a sum of seed numbers as 33. So if you keep going this way, the last match, M16, will be 16 versus 17. This is the expected match. But you should of course recognize the fact that this 1 versus 32 match could also be the 64 versus 32 or the 64 versus 33 match. So what is happening here is this 1 can be fed by 2 players. It could be fed by 1 or 64. And this 32, because there's a match happening in that round. Na? Agar seeding ke anusar hi sabko aage le jana tha, so why are you getting the tournament done? Just give the seed number 1 and the trophy, finish it off. So basically what is happening, because matches are taking place, anybody can win. So this match 32 of the first round, which was between 32 and 33, both of them could win. So this match here, 132, has 4 versions of it. You don't need to explore it unless the question asks you to do that, but you should understand this. And the 4 versions of it is 132, 133, 6432 and 6433. So as an exercise, you might want to think of, जैसे यहाँ पे 33 total है, तो you might want to think about the 825 match. What are the 4 versions of the 825 match? I'll give that as a home assignment for you. But suppose I do it for the 10-23 match. There's a match between 10 and 23. So what are the 4 versions of the 10-23 match? If I think about that, so you will realize that the 10-23 match is coming from match 10 versus and match 23. Match 10 of round 1 was, now in round 1 the total is 65. So match 10 of round 1 was 10 versus 55. And match 23 of round 1, the total has to be 65. So match 23 of round 1 has to be 23 versus 42. So the 4 versions of this match are basically 10-23, 10-42, and 10 can be replaced by 55-23 and 55-42. So these are the 4 versions of these match. So just to understand, make sure that you understand this logic, make sure that you are able to build this structure for an 825 sample or a 16-17 sample, or a 11 versus 22 sample. Just do 2-3 such cases. But essentially, this is how the tournament moves. And then, just like that, round 3. So round 1 had 32 matches, round 2 had 16 matches, round 3 will have 8 matches, and this is called the pre-quarterfinals in the tournament. When there are 16 players, it's called the pre-quarterfinals. And when you have 8 matches in round 3, the expected matches will be 1 versus 16. I mean, if everything goes as per expectations, 16 matches of round 2 will give you 16 players in round 3. Every match will have one winner. So these 16 players will go 116, 215, 314, 413, 512, 611, 710 and 8-9. These are the 8 matches of round 3. And the winners are expected, of course, to be the higher seeds. But please understand, again here, that there could be 4 players instead of this one here now. 4 versions of this match. So instead of that one, any of these 4 players could come into this match. 164, 32, 33. So in this situation, there are 4 ways in which this can get filled. And likewise, there will be 4 possible players who can come from the 16 match. 16, 17, of course, are 2 of them. But the other 2 will be 49 and 48. Because 16 is playing 49 in round 1 and 49 can win. And 17 is playing 48 in round 2 and 48 can win. So this match, the 116 match, has actually 4 into 4, 16 possible matchups. 116, 117, 149, 148, 64, 16, 64, 17, 49, 64, 49, 64, 48 and so on. So this is the 8 matches of round 3. And then you come to the round 4 in this case. In this case, the round 4 is the quarterfinal. And the quarterfinal will have 4 matches, which will be expected to be 1-8, 2-7, 3-6 and 4-5. And this one, in this case, can be replaced by any of these 8 players. Any of these 8 players have the opportunity to win this match and come into the next round. So the next round, the second round had 4 matches, 4 possible tune-ups for every match. The third had 16. The fourth one is 8 into 8. So in this case, the 8 players possible for 1 and 8 players possible for 8. So you don't have to find out all of these, but there will be questions in which you'll be asked to identify which ones, or based on this matchup ended in an upset, who's playing whom kind of questions happen. So you need to know the tracing part of this. So every match in this case has 64 versions. There could be 64 different matchups in this round for each of these matches. And likewise, you then go to round 5, which is the semi-finals. And semi-finals are expected to be 1, 4, 2, 3. And because there are 8 players who can replace 1 here, and 8 players who can replace 8 here. So there are a total of 16 players who are playing this, who could be playing this match. Right? 8 players on this side and 8 players on that side. And any one of them can win this. So the next round, the possible matchups for this position, there are 16 players who can come in here. And there are 16 players who can come in here. So this 16 is called a quarter of the draw. Right? And 16 players, so people who are in this quarter, in 2's quarter, can all replace 2 in the semi-final. And people who are in the 3's quarter can all replace 3 in the semi-final. And then the final is expected to be 1 versus 2. The final is expected to be 1 versus 2. And there can be 32 players who can reach this match on this side instead of 1, including 1. There are 32 players who can come here. And there are 32 players who can come to this side in this context. So there are a total of 32 into 32, 32 square, 1024 possible matchups in this case. If it's a 128 player tournament, the final can be 64 into 64 ways. Right? 4096 different finals can happen. Right? So when you see a Djokovic versus Federer or a Nadal versus Djokovic in a French Open final or a US Open final, you know that that's one of the 4,096 matches that could have happened in that place, in that final. So ये तो हो गया, and then there's the logic inside this of the logic of the upset. The upset logic is this, that suppose this 1748 match, 48 wins. 48 is not supposed to win, 17 is supposed to win. If 48 wins this, then it is called an upset. So this is the basic terminology of this topic, and couple of things you need to know. First of them is number of matches. How many matches will happen? So in a knockout tournament, always the number of matches is n-1, where n is the number of players. This is a standard logic. The simple reason why this happens, suppose you do a tournament, a knockout tournament in your colony for a badminton tournament. You organize the tournament and you get 13 players playing, and the moment you lose, somebody loses, he's out of the tournament. So whatever way you organize it, you give 3 people buys, or you give 1 person buy and 6 people, 12 people you make them play. Whatever way you organize it, you will see that you will need 12 matches to get this tournament organized. So for example, in the first round you can play 6 matches and 1 person gets a bye. So 7 people reach the second round. You can play 3 matches, 3 people play against another 3 people and 1 person gets a bye. So you have 3 matches more, 9 matches ho gaya. And 4 people come to the semi-finals. Semi-final will require 2 matches. So 7, 6, 3, 9 to 11 ho gaya. Or 1 match for the final. So 12 ho gaya. So this n-1 logic will always work, no matter how you calculate it. You can try it for 67 players, how you'll organize the tournament. Think about this, you're organizing a badminton tournament in your society, in your apartment block, and you want to, or in your colony, and you get 67 players participating, and you are doing a knockout tournament. How many matches will happen? Whatever way you structure it, you will see that there will be 66 matches. Why there will be n-matches? The logic is very simple. 1 match, 1 loser. Yeah, there's 1 winner also, but one loser. So 67 players if they are participating. 1 match, 1 loser, 66 matches, 66 losers. And the moment you get your 66th loser, you get your 67th person as the winner of the tournament. He's an unbeaten player, right? So that's why it's always n-1. The next logic to this is, how do you organize the number of rounds? Number of rounds कितना होगा इसमें ऐसे टूर्नामेंट में? तो number of rounds depends on the power of 2, right? So as we saw, for 64 players, we had a round 1 where 64 players were participating. We had a round 2. Let's go back to this. For 64 players, this was round 1. This was round 2. This is round 3. This is round 4, quarterfinals. This is round 5, semi-finals. And this is round 6, final. So when you have 64 players, you require 6 rounds. And you will also realize that when you have 32 players, tournament starting with 1 with 32, if you have 32 players, you will require 5 rounds in the tournament. And the key thing you need to understand is, the moment you introduce a 33rd player, if you have 33 players, you will go to 6 rounds. So till 32 players, I mean, the way you can think about it, any number of players from 33 to 64, there will be 6 rounds. Any number of players between 17 to 32, that means the moment you cross 2^4 and you hit 17, till 2^4 there will be 4 rounds. But the moment you cross 2^4, you go to 17. 17 to 32 will be 5 rounds. You will require 5 rounds to do the tournament. Right? Let's try. Suppose I have a tournament in which I am organizing in my colony, and 17 players decided to take part. I am doing a knockout, mind you. I am doing a knockout, so round 1, 8 matches and 1 bye. Bye means a person is just passed on to the next round without having to play it. right? So 8 matches, 1 round. So 9 players reach round 2. 4 matches, 1 bye. So 9 players reach round 2. 4 matches, 4 winners, 1 bye. 5 players will reach round 3. What I'm trying to show you is that at 17 players, you cannot do it in 4 rounds. You will need 5 rounds. At 16 players, you could have done it in 4 rounds. First round is the pre-quarterfinal, the next is the quarterfinal, the third is the semi-final, and the fourth is the final. So round 3, 5 players. 5 players will mean 2 matches plus 1 round, 1 bye. So round 4 mein 3 players will come. And the moment there are 3 players, you're having a knockout tournament. You really can't have, you really cannot have one player or one match and finish it off. So you'll have 1 match and 1 bye. So round 4 will have this thing, and round 5 will have 2 players who will play the final, which will be 1 match. So you can see the moment there are 17 players, you cannot do it in 4 rounds. You will need the 5th round. So the logic essentially goes with the power of 2. So of course, tournaments with 3 or 4 players don't normally get discussed. So if I think about this, tournaments between 5 to 8 players will have 3 rounds. Tournaments between 9 to 16 players will have 4 rounds. Tournaments between 17 to 64 players will have 5 rounds. Tournaments between 65, I missed 17 to 32. Tournaments of 17 to 32 players will have 5 rounds. Tournaments between 33 to 64 will have 6 rounds. And 65 to 128 will have 7 rounds, and so on. So this will be the structure of this. So this is the basic formula or the basic structure under which games and tournaments questions go. So I have, and then there's the logic of upsets, which we'll see in the context of a question, and we'll also see it at the start of the next class as a theoretical input, and then we'll look at the questions in this lesson, which will help you understand how to actually deal with games and tournament questions based on tennis tournaments. Abhi ke liye I'll take your leave, and I'll see you in the next class. Bye bye.